I think it's very important in light of the Boston massacre to take in some calls today, so I will give out the numbers right now. People can begin calling in at their convenience to help me discuss this tragedy. Now, in terms of sheer numbers, of course, every life lost is obviously priceless and an irreplaceable asset. So certainly the relations of the victims of the bombing of the three so far that I am aware of that died are to be given our compassion and maintained in our thoughts. So we want to keep them in mind. At the same time, the first thing that strikes me about this terrorist act is the small amount of people, comparatively speaking, who have died as a direct result of an act of terror. So it is made to appear to be a very amateurish assault, and I do not instinctively believe that that may be the case. I believe that this might be something that involves black operations, and I will express my suspicions behind that, and we will bandy that about with our listenership. In the meantime, I am posting my schedule for tonight quite late. There is an enormous amount of information that I have pumped into my schedules that I hope will alert and educate and inform people. So I would beseech upon anyone who is listening right now to review my schedules and take what you can from them, spread the word about the information that I am disseminating through them, and help make others aware of where we stand. One of the more surrealistic photos that we've seen has been, of course, the photo of, there's so many of them, but one that stuck in my mind was the image of after the bombing when people were being carried away in stretchers. And there was, of course, someone dressed as a giant chocolate M&M who was standing by looking puzzled. And it was so bizarre that my manager, Lorian Ann Fenton, honestly suspected that it was a computer graphic insert, and I assured her it was not, that many people run these marathons dressed in every type of costume imaginable, dressed as Elvis, dressed as fairies, dressed as Pinhead from the Hellraiser series of films, just different subjects that you can imagine as being rather outlandish, and people take this opportunity to express themselves with various forms of cosplay, as it's called. So aside from that Eminem, one of the things that made it even more surrealistic that he was looking down upon an American flag, which was all rolled up and in the film. Now, the flag was all rolled up as if it had been used to soak up blood, or more appropriately, to serve as a pillow. It had soaked up some blood in that manner, but it was rolled up as if it were used to prop somebody's head up on the ground and until a stretcher could bear them away. So it was a very potentially impromptu scene. That, however, is what I would be more prone to look at as almost a computer graphic insert, or as a kind of setup where somebody actually brought that there and put it on the scene to photograph, because it is so strangely pat that a rolled up blood-saturated American flag would be right there at the scene of what was essentially ground zero for the bombs. And whenever we have these various tragedies take place, these American flags just pop up everywhere. The flag of the Union as some kind of poignant, very apropos symbol of what? of the suffering of random American people in this particular empire. You can no longer define it as a republic or a nation state. We are the center of empire. And at this point, as I have said before, the tragedy of the situation, the cycle of violence, is that because I myself, for utterly selfish reasons, in terms of caring enough about the decent Americans who have truly been kind enough to manifest empathy for the situation of myself or my family while I have been living in this North American continent, who have responded creatively and productively to the information I have had to expose about this empire that we live in. Such people would make me want to preserve the status quo of our current state for as long as possible. Unfortunately, the inevitability is collapse because of the sheer corruption, the sheer incompetence, the schizophrenic morass of our bureaucratic Soviet state, which has imposed itself over the American people. That I cannot rightfully say that I want it to fall tomorrow, and because of the injustice that the empire itself is promoting and imposing on other peoples throughout the world. So we have a large population here, the third largest in the world, and a great deal of people would suffer with the collapse of that empire. That empire, of course, is based on the promotion of narcotic sales, far more than anything having to do with oil, far more than anything having to do with its grain distribution to the rest of the world as a food power, the preeminent food power in the world, as what has been up to recently the breadbasket of the world. So far more than that, we are reliant on our Southwest Asian investments in the AFPAKIA theater of war, Afghanistan and Pakistan, and the maintenance of the inflow of raw opium poppies from Afghanistan into Pakistan, where such opium poppies are basically converted into high-grade heroin through synthetic industrial means. So with this situation that's ongoing right now, as horrible as that is, with all the lives that those drugs destroy, there is no way that I can rightly say that I want its immediate collapse because of the immense suffering that it would lead to immediately on the American home front. If that drug money stopped coming in, all of our checks would stop, not just the government checks of the filthy bureaucrats who run this empire into the ground in their horribly spoiled, well-insured, permanently stable lives, but also in the lives of all Americans who are scrabbling hand to mouth, whose lives, their very existences, depend on welfare checks, Social Security checks. All of that would stop. There would be no money to pay for it were the drugs to stop flowing from out of Southwest Asia into Europe, which is, at this point in history, the largest economy in the world. Certainly not the United States. Now, here's something interesting that I've just got on a message, an email from someone as well, in terms of who bombed Boston? Word for now is caution. The U.S. government and Jewish officials are advising against speculation in the wake of the Boston Marathon bombing. Now, does that statement make any sense to you? The U.S. government and Jewish officials are advising against speculation? Why on earth would Jewish officials suddenly figure into the equation? It's very bizarre. But in terms of the conspiracy-mindedness of someone who has worked in security, let's first deal with the significant. So the United States government, were it to participate in a black op against its own people, would make the bomber look as stupid as possible, would make the bomber look as amateurish as possible, and then take whatever measures they wanted from that point forward. Because if they made it look too good, then they would basically make it look professional and then make it look as if the government had done it. First off, if the North Koreans had done it, as some people are speculating, is this something from North Korea? Why would they resort to something as penny ante, as petty, as ridiculous as this, comparatively speaking, again, not to demean the suffering for the individuals who have lost family in this event, and their suffering is, of course, inexpressible. There's no way to express what someone goes through with something like this. It's terrible. But the number of people that died, 3, about 100 casualties. Now, there are suicide bombings in al-Iraq that take out more people than this. Many more people. There are all kinds of bombings all over the world that take out all kinds of people. Now, the idea of this being some amateur with a cell phone is, of course, absurd. I have not listened to a single report on this. I have purposefully refrained from looking at anything on the net. I have purposefully refrained from looking at anything on the television. I have not listened to the radio about it, and the reason that I do that is because I wait for information to come from me from others who do that, who process as much as they can. And it tends to be a much better way of analyzing situations like this, because when you get it from the media directly, there is an incredibly hypnotic effect of the information you receive. It is preferable to have that information filtered through men and women of common sense. Now, my understanding from what little I was exposed to inescapably by being in restaurants, by stepping outside, was that the moment the bombing took place, the United States government shut down all cell phone towers in region because of the potential that the bomb may have been triggered by a cell phone. Now, they did this because, ironically enough, the Jewish government, or more specifically, more appropriately, more properly, the Israeli government has in the past used cell phones as trigger mechanisms and cell phones as bombs themselves when dealing with Palestinian Liberation Organization resistance leaders. So what the Israeli government has done has literally put plastique or various other small amounts of thermite, very, very high-tech plastic explosive materials into cell phones, which have wound up in the hands of Arab leaders that were triggered remotely when the Arab leader answered a cell phone call. And by answering the cell phone call, he puts the explosive within the cell phone right next to his ear, and it blows his head off. Now, this has literally happened. This operation, you can vet this. You can look this up on search engines, because these were public enough assassinations by Mossad where there was no avoiding the backlash of international outrage. Now, that's what makes it all the more interesting that we have preeminent Jewish American Steven Spielberg on site. We have these Jewish officials who are advising to avoid speculation in this. Now, all of that should have been avoided by the Israelis or the Jewish community because of the fact that this leads to anti-Semitic speculation. Israel should refrain from any statement on it. They should say no comment. The Jewish community itself may not be involved, admittedly, but Steven Spielberg going out there, I don't know, it does more harm for the Jewish community than good. Now, in terms of the other significant aspect of the cell phone towers were shut down as standard operational procedure, otherwise known as SOP by its acronym. And the SOP in any bomb site is for the U.S. government to come in and shut off all cell phone towers, and they tell you it's because this is out of concern that cell phones may be used as trigger mechanisms for various explosives in the area. All of that is, of course, pure crap. Even a suicide bomber will make certain, if at all possible, if they have any brains about them, that their explosives will not go off until they are on target. They are not going to throw away their lives needlessly or uselessly. They want their life to be expended in a way that, in their own paradigm, however twisted, in a manner which matters. So if someone were to, as Mr. Becker articulated, set off a bomb to trigger by a cell phone, anyone could dial that number accidentally. People do so all the time, and he'll be carrying it en route and blow up himself before even making a statement. And the reason that they cut off all service from cell phone towers in region is because the United States government wants to prevent anyone on site from calling out with any information they might have about witnessing the men in dark suits who carry the bombs onto site, as well as preventing anyone on site from taking images, because inevitably, in most cases, they will project images which will incriminate the U.S. government. If the U.S. government were not involved, they would say, keep all the cell phones operating. We want as much communication between people as possible so that they can help us in locating the perpetrators.